Welcome to She Sells Radio. Okay, so today's episode is going to be fun and different and hopefully kind of unique from a lot of what we've talked about on here. And, if you have been a listener for any amount of time, you probably know my style by now. And I'm normally doing some sort of interview, or if I'm doing a solo show, I'm talking more about mindset. And today is actually far more tactical. And it's funny as I look back at the vast majority of my career in sales training, that's really what I taught. I used to go into corporations all around the world and really just teach the tactical stuff. And so, really diving into mindset and energy, those are things that I haven't taught as much up until this past year. But once I started doing them and I got the results I did, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the missing link. But here's what I'll say with all of that. So you can go back and listen to a bajillion, well, not a bajillion, I think approximately 105 other podcast episodes that will focus more on that. But you can have the right mindset all day long. But if you don't know the right actions to take towards your goal, or you're taking ineffective actions, it's just going to be challenging to get the results you want, right? At the end of the day, that just is what it is. And so, as I was thinking about today's episode, I thought back to what are some of the most powerful tactical strategies that have helped me, be a top producer in corporate sales, going all the way back to my very embarrassing first corporate sales job of selling yellow pages. Yes, I sold yellow pages. You probably don't even know what that is, depending on how old you are as you listen to this. And then got into selling digital advertising campaigns for global brands. And now, having been an entrepreneur for over 5 years and running my own business, and I've sold millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of products and services. I've been a top producer in every position and have made a ton of mistakes along the way too. And here's one thing I'll say is I am really passionate about helping you not make the mistakes I did and just shorten the learning curve. I think that's one of the most important pieces of coaching and mentoring. And that's why I have coaches and mentors, is because we want to shorten that learning curve and learn from other people's mistakes. I want to caveat everything I'm going to teach today with one of the biggest mistakes that I made for many years that kept me stuck at it was a good income level, but I wasn't breaking through a new level for years, was trying to put myself in a box of what other people said I should do. So I just want to give a big disclaimer here is take what works for you from this, take the best and leave the rest. I promise and guarantee what I'm teaching here. This is what the top, for the most part, like I've coached a lot of top sales producers across the world. These are the things that they swear by. This is what I swear by, but take it and customize it for you. Do what works for you out of these. Okay. The other thing I'll say is that these strategies, I'm going to teach you 7 of my favorite sales and marketing strategies and secrets that I've seen make the biggest shift for me. These are for both entrepreneurs and sales professionals. And, if you're an entrepreneur, as you listen to this, you're probably more likely, at least from some of the marketing side, to be doing some of these. On the sales side, you very well may be less likely to be doing some of these right now. But I think also, I want you to really listen in if you're in sales or if you're in sales leadership. These are really important strategies for your team to be using. And I think part of what made me successful in a different way from how many people were successful in my corporate sales career was I thought of myself as an entrepreneur, and I thought of myself as running my own business. And because of that, I used some of these techniques I'm going to teach you today that really made a big impact and made a big difference. So regardless of whether you're entrepreneur in sales working for somebody else or you're in sales leadership, I promise you want to listen in. Final PSA, and then we'll get into the first secret here. I just want to let you know right up front, I am doing a deeper dive into these this week. If you're listening in real time, and if you're not listening in real time, then sorry, but hopefully we'll do something like this again down the road. But if you're listening in real time, you can still get signed up for our Skyrocket Your Sales Challenge, which is July 6th through 8th. And I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into these techniques. This is for women who want to break through 6 figures or beyond this year. And so you can go to elisearcher.com/challenge. Again, elisearcher.com/challenge. Get yourself registered, my friend, and you are going to have an amazing time. So, all right, first of these 7 secrets, and this one is probably the most challenging, I would say, out of all of them, It is to focus. It is to focus. And I know you've heard this, but here's what I want you to check in with. How do you consider yourself a good multitasker? Okay. Well, as a relatively new mom, I have learned that I feel like I have to multitask more than I used to. So I totally get it. Like, I am not saying that I'm perfect at this. I am not, I am not, I am not. But here's what I do know is number one, studies, and this is kind of funny, kind of not. Studies show that when you try to multitask, your IQ literally drops below the level it would if you were stoned. Okay. Now, this is not a passing judgment one way or another on getting stoned. Okay. But here's what I do know. If I had to deliver a big important client presentation, I wouldn't want to do it stoned. I'm just saying. If I had to prepare a marketing report, I wouldn't want to do it stoned. And yet, think about how often you are multitasking throughout the day, and it actually puts you at a massive disadvantage. And I know for me, when I'm trying to multitask, I'm not happy. Like, I notice it's when I am present. It's when I am focused on one thing at a time, and I typically do that by time blocking. And so I'm going to get into that in a second here. But um, I actually can look back at the end of the day and remember the day and feel accomplished. And so I just want you to check in with yourself at the end of the day. Do you feel like, oh my gosh, it was a blur and I don't even know what I did? Or can you look back and say, wow, I did this, I did that, I have this memory from this, I had that memory from that. And I think just for context, there's this great story that I love about Richard Branson. Now, Richard Branson, at the time I read this story, this was a few years ago, it's worth $4 billion. Who knows what he's worth today? But there's a story about him being asked to speak by, I think it was Success Magazine, asked him to come in and speak. And they offered him $100,000 to come in and speak for an hour. And so, they're not pitching Richard directly on this. They're reaching out to, I think it was his assistant, but they reach out, they've got this big important event and they want him to come in and speak, and they offer $100,000 for an hour. And his office writes back and they say, no, they say, hey, we appreciate it, but no, he's not available. They really want Richard. So they go back and and they say, look, $250,000. We just need him for an hour, $250,000. Can we please make it work? Wait to hear the reply, wait to hear the reply. And the reply comes back from Sir Richard's office and it's no, he's not available. And they say, the magazine comes back and they say, oh my gosh, like, we have to have him. This is so important. He's so inspiring to all of our readers. Look, we will give him $500,000 for an hour. We will have a private plane come get him, pick him up, drop him off for the event. It'll be waiting for him at the end of the event so he can get back on the plane within the hour. It'll take him home. Like, we have to have him come speak. And they send that offer in back to his office and it comes back. No, we're sorry. He's not available. And they go back and they say, what is it going to take? Like, give us a number. Let us know what it's going to take. We have to have him. And his office writes back and says, we really appreciate, you inviting him to come speak at this event. But Richard currently has 3 key priorities that he's focused on. And anything else that doesn't align with those priorities is simply a no right now. And when I heard that story for the first time, it's easy to think, okay, well, that's because he's Richard Branson. He doesn't need the money. But I want you to think about, could that also be why he's Richard Branson? Is because of that level of focus and the ability to say no. And so those who succeed, one of the most important things that's going to help you succeed in today's beeping, notification, constant interruption filled world is learning to focus. And so a few quick action items you can take from that. Number 1, please, if you've not turned off the notifications on your phone and your computer, turn them off. I'm not going to take the time on today's episode to talk about getting over the mental of, oh my gosh, what if I miss something, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's very much a limiting belief. And I I can tell you, I've coached so many from senior leadership, founders of companies, all the way down to sales producers within organizations. This is one of the biggest game changers that usually people have the biggest resistance around because they think they're going to miss out on something. But you're going to schedule blocks of time. So schedule blocks of time throughout the day to check your inbox. And I don't even like the word check inboxes. I like process inboxes. So you come in there with an intention and a focus to get it done, not just checking and like dilly-dallying in there, but schedule blocks of time every 3 hours, every 4 hours, whatever you need to do to go in and check. Because every time you're distracted, you think it just takes you a minute to get back to what you were doing. But it's not the case. Studies show it takes 20 minutes, on average, 20 minutes to get back to the focus and the flow that you were in before you were interrupted by that beep. And so you are going to have so much regained productivity time by turning off those notifications. So that's the first one, focus. Now that ties in with this second secret, which is to schedule your revenue producing activities. Okay. Schedule your revenue producing activities. This one is also a game changer. And my friend and business partner, Rory Vaden, wrote a book called Take the Stairs. And he talks about the number one killer in business today is procrastination. And what is that activity that we tend to procrastinate on more than any other, whether we are a business owner or a salesperson, is what? Prospecting. Sales activity, which is kind of crazy because that's the whole reason you're in business. That's the whole reason you're doing what you do. But what I would encourage you to do is schedule time in. This is also where, and we'll talk about to-do lists in a moment, but they usually don't work that well for people. And I would encourage you, anything that has to get done, actually schedule it in your calendar and schedule it first thing in the day. Think about what a relief it is. Just like for me, I know if I don't exercise first thing in the day, the rest of the day feels off for me. And so you can find me. Yes, I'm an early riser. You can find me at like 4 a.m. doing my dance moves, doing my strength training, doing whatever it is that I'm into at the moment, yoga. Shout out to my girl, Allison Hare. She's got me hooked on this crazy dance program where literally at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm twerking in my living room. That was way TMI for this, but if she's listening, she'll get a laugh. So anyway, it's the same. That was a really roundabout way of saying it's the same with prospecting. Get it done first thing and you will feel so good for the rest of your day. Whatever your prospecting is, whether it's, for me, like part of how I generate leads and clients is by creating content. So for me, I'm going to be doing a live. So if you're not joining for our lives every morning at 8:30 Eastern, every weekday morning, except occasionally if I'm traveling, teaching a team or something, you can find me live on my social media. And that is part of my lead gen. That's part of and I would do it regardless of whether it generated leads, but I like getting that in first thing in the morning so that it's like, okay, I know that's a key piece of revenue production for our company. And I've done it. I've gotten it done first thing in the morning. So whether for you, it's sending DMs or doing something like what I do, or, doing, I don't think a lot of people who I coach at least are doing cold calls anymore because I usually teach a very different way of doing it than that. But whatever your model is, get the outreach done early, and block it off in your calendar. And this is so tying back in with the to-do list. There's a consultant named Kevin Kruse, consultant and speaker named Kevin Kruse. And he did this study that I thought was so interesting where he took a group of, I think it was 100 straight A students, millionaires, and Olympic athletes to see what is it that they all do similarly that creates top results for them. And he found one thing in common that I thought was so fascinating. And he said, not a single one of them kept a to-do list. If it was going to get done, it got scheduled in their calendar. So I find for myself, if I just pop it on the to-do list, I'm going to find other things that are easier or feel more important or more urgent in the moment. If it has to get done, scheduled in the calendar, that's also going to keep you in reality about how long things take and about what you actually have bandwidth to say yes or no to, which, this wasn't planned, but I like how these are flowing, ties in with number 3, which is delegate, delegate, delegate. Delegate anything and everything you possibly can. So when, I used to work in in this global sales coaching and training organization, and they had people track their time to see how much time was being spent on actual like revenue producing activities versus how much time was being spent on putting out fires and reacting and responding. And what we found was that if people were like top of the pack, they were maybe spending 20% of their day on income producing activities, on revenue producing activities. Everything else was admin work, stuff that they didn't have to do, like cleaning the house, right? If you work from home. So, what I want you to think about is whatever it is that you want to earn this year, take it and divide it by 2020. So that's the average number of hours that somebody works in a year. And even to make it easier, just divide it by 2000. Okay. So let's say you want to earn $100,000 this year. Your hourly rate is $50 at that level. If you want to earn $1,000,000 this year, your hourly rate is $500, right? Simple math. So take whatever that number is, divide it by 2000, and anything that you would not pay somebody else that amount to do per hour, you want to delegate to somebody for a lower hourly rate. And you can do it one thing at a time too. So you don't have to do this all at once. And I've gotten to the point in my own life and business where honestly, part of what has helped me achieve results that I feel are successful in my life has been delegating before I felt ready, early and often, but delegating at a level that stretched me and doing it one thing at a time. So I learned this from one of my mentors, Gina DeVee. Keep a who else could do this list. And anything that you find yourself doing that doesn't require your talent and your skill sets. So for many of us, and for you, that very well is probably like being the face of your business, right? So if it's talking with clients, delivering the service, or prospecting, you can delegate too, a lot of it, right? But whatever does not require you physically, your talent and service, put it on that list. So as I was ramping up, it would be things like processing my email inbox or doing social media posts, or even now it's like operational stuff. I find for me, if I try to think about all the operational stuff behind our business, it makes me feel so bottlenecked and overwhelmed. It's just not my strength. But I didn't start, in transparency, I didn't start delegating that stuff until we were, multiple six figures, but you can do it anyway. Like you can absolutely do this any way that works for you. But on that list, it could also be things like laundry, like cooking, like I don't know, pick your poison. Think about what are the things that are energy draining for you and keep that list. And then I would encourage you, like every month, go back and look at that list and say, I'm going to pick one thing off this list this month to delegate. And you'll find that you start getting stuff off your plate and it starts freeing you up. And it's so refreshing and that's what makes your sales and your business grow, is you doing what actually creates money, which is, again, you being the face, you reaching out to people, you having sales conversations, discovery calls, application calls, whatever your process is. And then for many of you, if you are a consultant or a service-based business, delivering the service as well. Step 4, secret number 4, schedule your learning every day. And this is, I know, like if you're listening to this, you are probably like me, where I don't even have to tell you this, but scheduling that daily learning, to me, my favorite thing to do, and my schedule has changed as Jack our son has, just his schedule changes. So I used to be a 4 a.m. wake up girl, and I just enjoyed that early schedule. Now you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm getting up at 3, but I'm also going to bed at like 8. Okay. So I get my 7 hours. I am never, ever going to tell you not to sleep. I did that for years and it doesn't work. It was miserable. You have to get your sleep. But I love getting up. I get up so early now because Jack keeps getting up earlier. And I'm like, dude, if you keep getting up any earlier, I'm going to get up at midnight, like to have my time, my daily learning time. There is nothing I love more than getting up. The house is still quiet, having a cup of coffee and studying and learning. And this is a technique I've done for myself in the past. I'm not doing it right now, but as I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, I want to get back into this. And I've taught my clients to do it, is create a curriculum for yourself. So think about, what are your quarterly objectives? Like, what are the things you want to do in the next 90 days? What are your revenue targets, your income targets, your business and sales targets, and your personal targets? Where do you want to be? And then what do you need to learn to be able to accomplish those? Because there are so many personal development books. There's so many, business books, strategy books, mindset books. Like there's so many of them, right? That we could literally just we could read them all day long and never get done and not have a real strategy behind it. I think part of what will help you sort and prioritize what to read first is say, what do I need most right now? And create a curriculum. For a lot of my clients, I was doing a coaching call with a client this morning, and what a lot of my clients find is that when they first come into the 10K Club, our group program, they really need to heal their relationship with money. And so I'm typically recommending they're starting off reading money books, like learning what money actually is, how it works, how to become a vibrational match for the money you want so that it must come to you. But having that focus on that curriculum, for other clients who I work with, as I talk to them, it is more about strategy, or it is more about healing, healing different parts of them. So anyway, whether you're working with a coach or not, you can kind of create your own curriculum and say, this quarter, these are the 4 books I'm going to read, or the 10 books I'm going to read, the 1 book I'm going to read, right? Set your pace, do you, but create a curriculum based around your 90-day goals. Okay. Speaking of morning routine, again, I've not planned, but I like how that flows. Speaking of morning routine, secret number 5 is to really, really, really leverage the power of visualization. Now, if you're following my lives in the morning, then we do a deep dive and we talk a lot about the power of the mind and vision and emotions. And so if you're not joining those every morning at 8:30 Eastern, you can catch my live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Where else are we live? YouTube. And so we do a much deeper dive into this. But I used to I used to skim over this one. I didn't think it was that important because I hadn't experienced the power of it yet myself. And so I would keep a vision board, but it was just, and like, I can so relate if this is your approach with it. I would keep a vision board, but it was only because I heard other people saying you should. And I didn't really feel that strongly about it. I would look at it and I would think, oh, I want that house. I want that car. I want that amount of money this month. And then I would feel fear and nervousness that it wasn't going to come. And so that's why I want you to start following those lives in the morning, because I talk about why it actually works, like the science and the spirituality behind visualization and why it matters for you. Um, but I didn't know that I was a great visualizer. I was just visualizing what I didn't want, because I was worrying all the time. And so I would worry about, oh, what if this person cancels? And what if this money doesn't come in? And what if the money in the bank account doesn't change? And what I didn't know was that I was using negative visualization. Worry is just negative visualization. So your brain, the subconscious, the part that really is responsible for 95% of your results, it thinks in pictures and it thinks in emotions. And so when I say ice cream cone, think about what you see in your brain. Do you see the words, the letters ICECREAM? No, right? You see a picture, a visual of an ice cream cone. So here's an interesting stat for my stat people. Your brain will process images 60,000 times faster than the written word. So it's really important that you create an image in your head of what you desire. And I would do this during the morning routine too. Every morning, spending time visualizing. And if you followed me for some amount of time, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. I particularly love his morning meditation because it helps you visualize what do you want to create that day and that in this year and so on. And so spending time in the morning, seeing yourself doing what you want to do, you're giving your subconscious brain commands to create that reality for you. So, and do this too all throughout the day. When you like when you're about to go on a client call, an application call, a discovery call, like visualize it going how you want it to go. And you can't look, I mean, we can never fully control other people. And this is why in sales, you get to be attached to what, but not how. So you don't get to be attached to who buys from you. But if you visualize the result and the outcome that you desire, I can tell you, number one, it's more likely to happen. So you might as well. And number two, if you keep holding that vision, it will happen. And if it's not through that person, it will be through somebody else. In life, you get what you expect. You get what you expect. And it's like, I love the Wayne Dyer quote, you will see it when you believe it. All right. So you must learn to believe in what you want and think about what you want and see first in your mind what you want. And then your outer reality will shift to make that your reality. Okay. It's that simple. The sixth step is build your personal brand. Build your personal brand. And oh, I love this topic. I've spent years, building my brand. And then I actually had a challenging situation a few years ago where I exited a company that I was part of. And part of that, it built a big brand in the sales coaching space. And part of the exit was I had to completely remove everything related to my personal brand. And I realized in that moment where I had been flowing and lots of leads were coming in and I was getting pretty much all my business was inbound and it was great. And then suddenly it was like it stopped for a while. And then over the past few years, rebuilding it and starting from scratch, and then also helping other people build their personal brand, helped start a company called Brand Builders Group along the way, which is an amazing, best personal branding firm out there, in my opinion. Um, and that's because of the brilliant leadership and other people involved. It's such a good company, such a good organization. But I've realized how important it is to focus on your personal brand. And this is, again, this is where, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're doing this, you get this. But if you're in sales working for another organization, this is critically important for you too. And if you're in sales leadership, it is critically important that your people develop their brands underneath the corporate umbrella, because people don't buy from companies. People buy from people. At the end of the day, think about, what do you enjoy paying attention to on social media? Who do you buy from? It's not some random, you don't enjoy looking at, there are some corporations that really have this figured out in terms of their marketing, but there's a lot that don't. So think about what stops your scroll. Is it an image of a corporate logo, or is it a picture of a face of a person? And this is just obvious, right? We know this, but people we buy from people we trust. And when I think about what's made me buy from other companies and what makes me a loyal customer to some of the vendors I work with, it's always, always, always the people and how they treat me and make me feel. So in terms of building your personal brand, you have to I would say there's a few things that are important to consider. One is, what sort of content do you enjoy? So for me, I love anything that's voice related, which is why I love podcast. I love lives. I love interviews. Um, Clubhouse is fun. I haven't done that in a while. I need to get back on, but think about, one, what do you enjoy? Because if being on video petrifies you, you don't have to do it. There's a lot of other ways you can do it. You can blog, you can, write LinkedIn articles. But the other thing is, think about where your prospects are. Where are your prospects, and building your brand there in front of them. So this is just like we could do episodes and episodes and episodes on building a personal brand. And I have more of them in the She Sells Radio archive, so you can go back to that. But I find for a lot of my clients, one of the most underutilized places where they can build a brand is LinkedIn. And if you're not actively focused on LinkedIn right now, think about who your buyer is. And whether they're in corporate or not, there's tons and tons of entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. And people on LinkedIn, they are people. People think it has to be all business. It's like, you want to keep, in my opinion, you typically want to keep the application more tied towards someone's professional goals and careers, but it's still people, it's still people. And when I think about what really worked for me when I was first getting started in my business, it was going all in on LinkedIn. And part of what's great about LinkedIn is video content gets way more organic views than other platforms, at least as of the last time I checked the numbers. And to me, there's so much functionality with it. If you ever run out of leads, I will come lovingly bop you on the head with a frying pan. Okay. You can set up lists on LinkedIn through advanced search of who your prospects are. So I tend to do more things inbound in my company than outbound, but if we need to drum up some business, I'm going outbound. I do what I need to do. And so I love setting up lists of sales managers in finance and insurance, and I can go in there and do direct outreach to them. So there's so many ways you can use LinkedIn for your brand. But I personally I'm a big fan of it. And then if you want, I've got two other episodes. I was going back and thinking, I know we've had other LinkedIn experts here on the show that you could listen to. So if you want to learn more about LinkedIn Episode 51 with Scott Aaron is great. And then episode 87 with Alex Sheridan will give you way, way more, just more fuel for your fire for LinkedIn, shall we say. And then think about too, in terms of building your brand, it's just giving, like it's just sharing, it's just teaching and being helpful. So if when I used to do, and I still do a fair amount of this, but when I used to do way more tactical sales training for sales organizations, one of the biggest mistakes they were making is that I found the team would just reach out to prospects to follow up. Hey, just following up, just following up, just following up. And how often when someone is trying to sell to you and they reach out just to follow up, do you not want to respond? Right? It's like of course we know it's about the sale, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm all about it. But when you follow up, I would really think about adding value. And that's part of why I like building your brand is that, let's say that you you ask your prospects if they want to receive weekly tips from you for whatever your business is, holistic nutrition or um, growing your brand via digital marketing, like whatever it is. And you have a weekly content marketing touch point, like an email newsletter or a text list or your podcast. It's a beautiful and unobtrusive way to stay in front of your prospects that positions you as an expert. And that's part of why I think for sales professionals, like you need to have your own list. You need to have a newsletter of some sort. You need to have a podcast. You need to have something that positions you at an equal playing field as your prospect. And when people have been listening to you for a long time and getting to know you, like it's not a matter of if they're going to buy from you, it's a matter of when they're ready, they're going to want to work with you because they've been listening to you. They trust you. They don't see you as just someone like filling their inbox with, hey, just following up. You're actually giving value and you're creating value, right? And then the final, there's so much more I could talk about with content marketing, but I'm going to just kind of curtail that one for now for the sake of brevity. The seventh and final tip for you here with sales and marketing is you've got to view closing as a service. You have to view closing as a service, as something that is helpful for people and is important. And I was doing a training this past week for our monthly membership for She Sells All Access on how to confidently market and promote yourself. And one of our members in that program is she healed from cancer several years ago and has a business she's launching to help people with the same thing. And we were talking about like, if you were like in your earlier in your post-cancer journey, how would you have felt if someone had a business like what you're building and had offered to help you in your journey? And she was like, oh my gosh, I would have thought that person was an angel. I would have been so glad they were there. I would have been so glad they reached out in position and like let me know they could help. And that's how it actually is. Like when you're coming at whatever you're selling from that place of service, of truly emotionalizing and connecting with the person on the other side, your customer, of what the challenges are they're going through, what their struggles are, then it is a disservice to not offer to help them if you think you can. So you have to almost take the money piece out of it. And when I think about my clients, like my clients are me. I know my clients because I have been them. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work that I do, because I, like my clients, used to really struggle with fear and scarcity thinking and feeling like I was making money and doing well from other people's standpoint, but like I always had fear that I wasn't going to be like, I said no to a bunch of stuff I wanted to say yes to. I was dealing with eating disorder. I was dealing with abusive relationship, like low self-esteem, low confidence, you name it, my friend. I have probably been there in some way, shape, or form. And so I know my clients because they've tried every sales script. They keep pushing harder. They keep trying to do more. And then they feel stuck. They feel frustrated and they don't realize what's actually holding them back, which is that they need healing. They need to become whole again. They've got all these past wounds that are hurting them and holding them back that they're not even aware of. But I've been on that journey and I know them and I know their pain. And so now, like when if, and 10K club, it's like, it's an application process. So it's not just anyone can come do it. But if I'm talking to someone and I think they're a fit, I am very strong in telling them I think they should do it and inviting them to do it, because I know the transformation it will create the moment they get in there and start learning this material, and the tears of joy that they cry for realizing how quickly they can transform and how quickly they can create the sales and the income and the life that they've desired that they thought was just not for them, because it is that important. So you've got to get out of your own way. Okay. And with that being said, that means you also have to be willing to tell someone if you don't think it's a good fit. So this is where we have to learn to have that abundance mindset. We have to heal our relationship with money. We have to know how money works vibrationally, energetically. We have to learn universal laws, because if you don't know this stuff, and you're in scarcity mindset, you're going to feel like you got to sell everyone. And then it's not a service. It's not helpful. So this is so important that we learn these things so that we can view closing as a service and really be fierce about helping your clients make that decision in favor of their highest good. Okay. Because at the end of the day, and this is really in closing, sales is just about helping other people get what they want. That's all it is. It's about helping other people get what they want. And I love this quote from Zig Ziglar. I think it's a really powerful way to end this conversation is, Zig said, you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. That's it. At the end of the day, stay focused on helping other people get what they want, and you will get everything you want and more. And that is probably the biggest sales and marketing secret out there. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was of service. As always, like DM me if you have questions on this, screenshot this and share it on your socials if it was helpful and you want to help someone else, another woman in sales or marketing who you think could use this information. And two, remember, sign up for the Skyrocket Your Sales Challenge. It's happening right now, July 6th through 8th, ElyseArcher.com/challenge. And I would just want to love on you and pour into you over the course of these 3 days to help you create shifts that not only are going to help, make the second half of 2021 phenomenal for you, but are going to transform your sales and your income results for the rest of your life, because you deserve to have the sales you want, you deserve to have the money you want, and you deserve to have the life that you want as well. So go ahead and get registered, ElyseArcher.com/challenge. I love you so much. And I will see you on next week's episode of She Sells Radio. Bye for now.